Hi and welcome to Federal Bank Let's Talk. Today we have a very special guest, a bureaucrat turned entrepreneur, a man who gave up a successful career in the Indian Administrative Service to start a flourishing enterprise of his own. Today we have with us the MD of Terumo Penpol, Mr.C.Balagopal. Let's talk. In 1987, Penpol started off as a manufacturing, modest enterprise. Today, Terumo Penpol is the largest producer of blood banks in India and a world-renowned biomedical manufacturing company. Will you first tell us about some of the high points of this success story?
Well, the high point is that we took a locally developed technology which was developed at the Chitrathirunal Institute and which was untried, and with the support and hard work of a lot of people, including the scientists of the institute, the engineers and technical people in our company, and many others, we were able to successfully commercialize it.
There must have been low points as well and turbulent times.
Problems were many, partly technology, partly quality related, because we encountered problems we did not expect. Then market related, unexpected developments like import policy changing. You know, the liberalization of the economy happened in 91 and I started the company in 87. So we started in a very protected, sheltered environment and suddenly found ourselves being buffeted by the winds of competition. So there were many problems, and it took us about, the waters were, you can say, turbulent for the first 10 years.
So what got you through those difficult times?
The entrepreneur is like you got a tiger by the tail. You can't let go. You can't just walk away from it. You can't say, all right, this didn't succeed, so let me try something else. Because in India, there's a terrible price for failure. So you don't want to fail, So you got, you have to hang on. I think that's the biggest driver, you can't let go. Then it's ego and all these other things come in.
Terumo Penpol exports to more than 80 countries. So how difficult was it making your presence felt and accepted in the international market?
It was very difficult because, when we started exporting, there was a lot of skepticism and we also made a lot of mistakes. We had to, take back whole batches which we shipped out and things like that. But that was a good learning experience. Going out into the export market very early on in our history was one of the smartest things we did in retrospect, because we learnt about regulatory requirements, we learnt about quality, it was a different ball game, and we learnt all that only in the export market. In the domestic market, all these concepts were not existing.
What are some of the corporate social responsibility initiatives of Terumo Penpol? I think you're one company that takes it up very seriously.
We take it up very seriously and we try to do it on a very low profile. In fact, the one initiative for which I think everybody, at least in Trivandrum and Kerala and probably in many parts of the country, tend to identify us is voluntary blood donation. Our community work, which is not very well known outside Velappul Panchayat, is what we do for the government lower primary schools. We have adopted 4 government lower primary schools in Velappul Panchayat, which were in quite bad shape. In fact, they were having such problems that enrollment was steadily declining in all the schools. Now, after 4 or 5 years of our working with those schools, I am glad to tell you that enrollment is full.
In 1999, you sold off a 74% stake of your company to a Japanese company, Terumo Corporation. Was that a difficult decision to make? And moreover, what did it mean to you personally? Because you're letting go of a major chunk, a lion's share of something that you have so painstakingly built up. So what did it mean to you personally, and was that a difficult decision to take?
No, it was actually it wasn't a difficult decision, because actually I was actively seeking a partner
For
ever since the
expansion.
economy ever since the economy opened up. You know, the writing was on the wall. We are a small startup venture in a difficult field dominated by giants, including Terumo. So now we had the choice was to continue. One possibility was we could continue to remain an independent, small independent
player.
producer, probably profitable, and a niche player indefinitely. I mean, at least for some more time. But that didn't interest me. You know, I thought when we started something, we wanted it to become big. We wanted it to become known. We wanted our products to go all over the world and things like that. And we wanted to grow. Then I thought growth means we have to, partner with one of these. So I actually actively sought. I spoke to a European company. I spoke to a very large American company, and finally we tied up with Terumo. And so the other thing which I must tell you is that, see, Penpol, which I started, was not 100% owned by me. In fact, I was a small shareholder of that also.
Okay.
Most of the shares were held by government institutions, including Government of India. National Research Development Corporation of India held a significant shareholding. ICICI Venture held a significant shareholding. KSIDC held a significant shareholding. So with all these shareholding government institutions, that was a way I was able to finance the project, because I didn't have the money. So after some time it was clear that that shareholding structure will not see us to the next level. So we have to get in a partner who can bring something else to the table, either technology, markets, finance, something. And that's how Terumo came into the picture. And I have no discomfort working as a junior, as a smaller financial partner, because the management understanding we have with our Japanese partners has been excellent. There's a lot of trust, and there's a lot of transparency in the way we deal with each other.
Kerala is a state that is known for its trade unionism and generally strained relationships between the employer and the employee.
Yeah.
In this context, it is remarkable that the workers' union of your company has produced a documentary in honor of you. So, what is the secret of this exemplary relationship that you share with your employees?
Going through difficult times together forges a kind of a bond. And I have a feeling, because most of our senior workers who are still with us, some of them have completed 20 years service, they all remember those bad times. Now, a new batch of workers coming in today may not remember those bad. So their views will be, I'm sure, different. They may not have that emotional bonding with the company. I must say that in more than nearly 25 years of functioning, we have not lost a single shift's production due to industrial dispute. And that brings me to the other point, is that I not only disagree with the view that Kerala is not a good location for manufacturing, but I actually strongly support a view which we are trying to promote, that Kerala in fact is better suited for certain kinds of manufacturing than any other part of India.
You quit a career that so many young men and women in India dream of and yearn for. You threw up a career in the Indian Administrative Services to start up an enterprise in an area, in a domain that you had no prior experience in.
Yeah.
So what prompted you to take such a decision?
I think that you have to go back to the reason why I joined the IAS.
Okay.
Actually, I joined the IAS to get away from a situation where a PhD program which I did, but which I was doing, ended in a serious disagreement with my guide, my supervisor, and so I did not want to continue that program. And in those days, you must remember, in the mid-70s, what options were there for somebody from a middle-class family, non-business family? You have to write some exam, either a bank exam or not many job options. So I wrote the UPSC exam and I got the selection. As time went on, I started realizing that I have got to make up my mind, do I want to continue in the service or not? And it was not because of any negatives in the IAS, that I realized that I got in for reasons unconnected with the IAS.
Okay.
So then I had to honestly ask myself, do I want to do this for the rest of my life? And I was not very sure. So then I thought that if I have to get out, I have to get out early. because I have to make a start from scratch somewhere else.
right.
And that's how I decided to quit without too much of a clear idea of what I'm going to do. But then this project came up.
You had a public school education. What was life like life like then?
Oh.
And would you advocate that kind of education to children today?
Okay, so first part I will answer. It was an amazing experience. This 150-year-old school set in a campus of 750 acres in the mountains at 7,000 feet. It looked like England. Everything, the buildings were like straight out of England. Even the trees, the vegetation was not normal. Climate was different. The uniform was the British Army uniform with a battle jacket. So that was my education for 10 years through my schooling. It was a wonderful time. We made friendships which lasted me for a lifetime. And so when I look back on it, it was an amazing experience. But would I advocate it? I think it is a completely, in my opinion, an antediluvian institution. I don't think there is any need or logic for a residential school for sending kids away at the age of 6 or 8 or 10 to live in a residential school. It doesn't make any sense to me today.
So will you tell us a little more about the days after school?
After school, I went to university in Madras. I went to Loyola College. I studied economics. And my school days was a very physical part of my life. I threw myself into all the games and extracurricular activities. I didn't give much importance to studies, though I used to do reasonably well. Then went to college, and it's amazing, I don't know how it happened, but I found myself just turning a new leaf, and suddenly it was books, reading, and not so much studies as just reading extensively.
Do you have a role model or somebody that you look up to?
Actually, there are quite a few amazing people I've met in life, and so in terms of people whom I respect a lot. One of them is Professor Ramaseshan, one of the great Indian scientists, who was the first whom I invited to be the chairman of my company. And Shivraj Ramaseshan was the nephew of Sir C.V. Raman and a former director of the Indian Institute of Science, one of India's greatest scientists. And he was chairman of my company for the first 10 years. And he influenced me a lot in terms of the values, the commitment to quality, the recognizing the importance of technology, and even about how to deal with people and things like that. He was one big influence. Another very great influence on my life is K. Ramakrishnan, whom we all call Babu Ettan. Babu Ettan's story, I think, is really the untold story of industry in Kerala. He was a man who brought the first industries to Kanjikode, Valayar Kanjikode. There's a premium mills, pre-caught mills, premier breweries, all that. He brought it, he set it up. And it was my great good fortune that we met, we became friends, and then he joined the board on my invitation. And he later on went on to become chairman of my company after Professor Ramaseshan. And we remained friends till his sudden death 6 months ago. And he was truly one of the, if I consider somebody like a mentor, it is him. A third person, I mean, there's a long list, but I have to say at least mention 2 or 3 others. A third person who has influenced me a lot is P.T. Krishnan, who is an architect, one of India's most outstanding architects. Many examples of his work are there in Kerala, because in the early days of Keltron, he used to do all the Keltron buildings. And also he used to do most of the Milma projects, because he was the architect for NDDB. But more than his architect, and he built our plant, our factory, and all that is designed by him. P.T. Krishnan, it's the P.T. Krishnan, the man, the integrity, the kind of wide interests which he had, the character of the person. He is probably the elder brother I never had. And finally, the big influence on my life over the last many years is Vinita. I mean, it is difficult to recount all the ways in which that is happening, but she has come into my life 10, 15 years ago. And it has been, for me, companionship of a kind which I never experienced, and which has completed me in many ways. And so I am really now looking forward to each year with more enthusiasm than I did 30.
Qualities that you think an entrepreneur should have, a successful entrepreneur?
I think young people, get misled into thinking it's okay to do risky things.
Okay.
But that's not, I don't think that's the sensible thing. See, entrepreneurs require investors. No investor wants to put money into something which he believes is very highly risky, because investors are not gamblers. So I think the entrepreneurs have to be very organized. They must have at least one solid skill to bring to the table. It must be either technical, or it must be market related, or it must be finance related. But the most important quality, I think, which an entrepreneur needs, and which will be tested, I can promise any potential entrepreneur, it will be tested all the time, is bad times.
Okay.
And how are you going to face the bad times? Are you going to walk away from a project, or are you going to give up?
So perseverance is
perseverance and commitment, I think, is the biggest quality, because then the rest of the team will not lose heart.
Will you tell us a little about your children?
I have 2 children. My elder daughter is, she must be 30, 31 now. She is married. She is married a North Indian, and who is an architect, a wonderful guy.
Okay.
And they live in Delhi. Then I have a son. He, after finishing school, he went to the US and did a course in filmmaking in the New York Film Academy. He's passionate about cinema. And then he came back and worked in Bollywood. He worked as an assistant to Priyadarshan for a couple of years. And then after that, he has been doing some freelancing.
What is your message to the parents of entrepreneurs, of children who want to be entrepreneurs?
First I have a message to all parents, is that, don't force your children to do things which they don't want to do. Don't force them into IT or into medicine or anything like that. And especially, if they are interested in humanities and all, encourage them. There are enormous careers, variety of careers coming up.
What would one typical day in your life look like?
Well, I am a very early riser. I wake up before 5 o'clock and then I read.
Okay.
Because my wife and I have an agreement that I shouldn't bury my nose in a book when she is around. So then about 6 o'clock, when she wakes up, we have a cup of tea, and we go for a walk.
Okay.
That's a important thing for us. Then I'm at office by 8:30 every day. Though the office time is 9, because that's the best time I get to finish off my work. And then my work life, when I'm not traveling, work life is fairly structured. We have a calendar of meetings which is fixed throughout the year. In the sense that for the whole year it's fixed. That is on Mondays I have my weekly review meeting with those reporting directly to me. Fortnightly we have a management committee meeting. Monthly we have various review meetings. There are 2 or 3 meetings. Every quarter we have. So that way it's structured. Then I visit the factory. If there are some meetings in the factory, I go there. Otherwise I visit the factory at least once a week. I also do work with the Ministry of Health in the Government of India and the Departments of Health in the various states, where we try to promote good blood banking practices, good systems. Because of our extensive knowledge and expertise in the field, we try to make this available, and wherever governments are interested or show some initiative, we are happy to involve themselves with that. So these kind of things keep me going. Then again in the evening, in a normal working day, I try to come back early. Rarely am I very late. And so by 6 o'clock back home, and then my wife also works. She runs a IT company in Technopark. So when we meet in the evening, we talk about the day, and then we have an early dinner normally. By 7 o'clock we would have had dinner. And
I was speaking to your wife and she said she loves cooking.
Yes, she's a phenomenal cook, and in fact that's one of her complaints, is that because of that we rarely eat out, because I prefer eating at home. Anything she cooks, such an amazing variety of dishes she can cook. And in fact any of our friends who have come and eaten at our home, they wait for the next invitation to come home. And then we both sleep early unless there's a good movie or something, which is very rare. So by 9:30 we are asleep.
Okay.
So that's a
typical
day in the life of ordinary man.
What are the various verticals in which Terumo Penpol operates? What are your products?
Yeah. Terumo Penpol, from the beginning we were set up as a manufacturer of plastic disposable blood bag systems. Okay. Now in the old days glass bottles were used to collect blood. That has been replaced by flexible plastic bags. The use of flexible plastic bags has enabled blood to be collected in a safe manner, because of various features of the products. And now universally glass bottles have been replaced by plastic bags. We were the pioneers in India to introduce plastic bags, and now there are others also. So that's our main product. And we have a factory in Vilappil Panchayat, about 10 kilometers from Trivandrum, which employs about 850 people, and it produces about 100 crores worth of blood bags. The products of that factory are exported to more than 50 countries. This factory is probably the most modern medical device manufacturing facility in India today, and probably in Asia. We have another smaller manufacturing unit which is called the Medical Systems Group, which manufactures equipment, special purpose equipment which is used to separate blood into plasma, packed cells, platelets, and store them separately.
In all these businesses, quality must be a key issue.
Yeah.
So how do you ensure that standards are maintained?
It's actually the biggest challenge in medical device manufacture is maintaining quality. And quality it's very difficult to reduce it to just specifications and standards and things. So real quality in the medical device manufacturing can be accomplished only by process control, and not just it's only through controlling the processes that you can control the outcomes, the end products. So even though we have terminal sterilization, it is important for us to ensure. So actually, if you see the blood bag manufacturing facility, the entire facility of almost 100,000 square feet is temperature controlled, environment controlled, pressurized, so that no outside air particles can infiltrate into the factory. It is kept at positive pressure, so if any door is opened, even by accident, air can only leave the factory, it cannot enter the factory.
Okay, thank you very much. We have a small rapid fire session.
Yeah.
So we'll wind up after.
Sure.
The first question is, what makes you laugh?
Funny things.
What makes you cry?
Sentimental stories.
What's one habit that you would like to get rid of?
So many bad habits I want to get rid of.
You're trying to find out which one.
Can't think of any immediately.
Greatest passion?
Reading.
What makes you angry?
Unfairness, unreasonableness.
Your favorite attire?
Casual clothes, t-shirt, jeans.
Color?
White, light colors.
Food?
Anything my wife cooks.
One person who's inspired you the most?
I think Shivraj Ramaseshan.
Your favorite book?
To Kill a Mockingbird.
One book that you suggest that every young person must read?
A Short History of Nearly Everything by Bill Bryson.
Your world, what does that bring to your mind?
A world where people behave with decency and courtesy towards each other.
Two major hurdles to success.
Selfishness and lack of consideration for others.
What's your favorite holiday destination?
Anywhere away from a city or town, I enjoy being in.
Your birthday?
October 2nd, 1952.
Okay. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and thank you so much. This is a small token of appreciation.
Thank you.